Okay, welcome everyone to this special Open Mainframe Project webinar about building a thriving open source community. Before I hand it over to our speaker, Andrej Chmelo from Broadcom, we just wanted to give you a few housekeeping notes. This webinar is being recorded and will be added to the Open Mainframe Project YouTube channel later this week, so you can find it there. If you have questions as he is going through his presentation, please type in your questions in the Q&A or the chat, and Andrej will be addressing those questions live. With that, I will give it to you. Thank you, Andrej.
Thank you for the introduction. So hello everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar about how to build a thriving open source community. I'm software engineer in Broadcom, and I work for more than 3 years. I'm an active member of Zowe community. So before we begin, just a few words why I consider this topic important and why to even have this as a webinar. It's because that the sustainability of the open source projects rely on active contributions of developers, and that means that the survival of these projects heavily depends on their ability to retain developers and onboard newcomers, as well as to create a community of users who is promoting the adoption of the project. With that, let's see what would be the content of today's webinar. We'll start with how to create a pleasant environment, then continue with a talk about or more related to contributors, and at the end I will mention 3 successful open source projects and how they implement these things that we'll be talking about. Well, let's now start with how such a pleasant or nice environment should look like. So it is important for the users who would like the project, who would like to contribute, that since the beginning it is clear to them to see how they can start, where to go. This is a place of the first contact. It should be a page that is dedicated to aspiring contributors with some general information about how to start contributing, links they can follow to the repositories, to the communication channels, subscription to some calendar. As you can see, I provided an example. This one is taken from Zowe website on the contribute page, and it contains links to Slack channels, subscription to the calendar, and some example GitHub repositories, which are the best if someone wants to start. Depending on the size of the project, this can be hosted on the GitHub for the small projects, if this project like the resources, or if it's something larger. In this case, it's good to have a specific project website where this lives. So once the users are presented with general information, we can go further and expand the guidance with some well-known tools. As a start, it's good to have a contributing guideline. Such a guideline is there to enhance the information about how one can make a contribution. For example, what means a bug if wants to submit a bug issue, how to provide a fix for such bug. Then the process of suggesting a new feature or providing an implementation for the feature, doing chores in the repository. This, for example, some repositories do not accept such a contribution because if they're large, they're receiving a lot of chores, and it can be unmanageable for them. Another important resource or formality is a code of conduct. This is a document that describes how people should behave to each other. It helps to prevent from toxic and bad behavior. It's not necessary to have formally written one, as long as the community is not that huge and is expanding at a manageable pace. Everyone is behaving correctly, then it's not important, but it's good to have at least informal agreement among the contributors. Next important thing is to have few good first issues where the users can start. Like, it should not contain any domain specific knowledge or expect any domain specific knowledge. Should be something general that even without the deep knowledge of the project, one can start working on. Very nice feature on the GitHub is that it provides the information, let's say automatically, if you meet few requirements, and if you go to the repository /contribute, GitHub will present you with good first issues, like the issues that are marked with this tag, and a link to contributing MD, which contains the information that I was talking about. So these tools are, in the sense, passive communication to the users for the beginning of their journey to become a contributor. And next, we will look at more dynamic tools, which are the communication channels. It's important to understand that active discussion is a sign of healthy project. Communication plays a key role to disseminate the project and to help onboard new members. What are the most used options? Maybe the most prevalent is email communication, but faster way or more engaging way is to use chat platforms such as Slack or Discord. Anything, but it needs to be widely used so you don't force people to adapt to new chatting platforms. It should not be anything proprietary. It's good to have some coordinator who creates public places which make sense in the way that are specific to what users would like to discuss, like a feature or specific to sub-projects in the project. It's important to be active in responses to users and new members, because it can be really disengaging for them. Another important way of communicating with the contributors are version control platforms such as GitHub or Bitbucket. This tool can be used for the discussions in the issues and PRs and pull requests, where this communication is also stored for reference in the future. If you would like to find why this was implemented that way, it's really good to use these platforms or these comments. Another important way of communicating are social network groups or subreddits, Twitter accounts. This is a sign that the project is active when it's providing a lot of new stuff, and it can help to spread the word around about the project and to attract new members. Emails are more common in let's say bigger communities, when this way of communication or accepting feature proposals is better manageable, and is also good for sending newsletters like about what is new, what's going on. But it's important to know where is the limit and don't spam users. So now when we have invited new members, new contributors, let's take a look. Oh, no, I have maybe a few examples for real world examples how such a chat communication can look like this from open mainframes. Like you see that there are different places where users can ask for help or have a conversation about implementing for new features or fixing bugs. This is an example of the communication in the GitHub. You can see that a lot of comments for certain issues. So let's get now to the contributors, how to retain and incentivize the contributors. First thing that is really important and that anyone can do is be a mentor for members, for the new members. This is really what makes a difference. This is why people would be willing to work and to contribute to the project, because they will get something from it in the form of knowledge or skills, experience, how to do that. You should be helping others when they are struggling with something, when they're asking on the chat, when they don't know how to move on. You should make the effort to transfer your knowledge, transfer your domain knowledge, and be this kind of a teacher to others. But it's not enough just to be passive in this area, but rather active, because from the point of view of someone who is experienced in the project, everything is easy and it's clear like what to do next and where to go, but it's not so much for someone new, someone who just came to the community. So it's good to be the one who shows the way to others, who is a leader, and helping others to achieve the common goals or even set them. And as a last point, it's good to be an example, an inspiration that someone would like to copy or to imitate. We as a Zowe had a record of successful mentorship programs that were done with cooperation with universities. I have mentioned three projects that were done by the API Mediation Layer Squad, which is part of the Zowe project. The first one was metrix service. This was a web service with a user interface that was collecting and presenting the data from API gateway, which is a component that is routing all the requests from client to the services on the mainframe. The next one was UI Wizard. It was the project you can see on the screenshots. It's a tool that helps users or service owners to onboard their REST APIs into Zowe. And the last one, which is the most recent one, conformance validation done by a student Matěj from Czech Technical University here in Prague. And as it's most recent, he was able to provide some feedback also. He described his experience as very beneficial. And it was a great opportunity to him to work on such a big project, to use the tools for collaboration, such as Git and GitHub. So it's really visible that it makes a difference, and it's valuable for new joiners to take this journey and to contribute. He also said that he's planning to continue in contributing for other open source projects. So as important as it is to retain and attract new members to your project, it is also important to make sure that there is a high level of diversity among the community members. As a software development field, as all of you know, it has a reputation for being more homogeneous, but our goal is to change that. So what is the goal? The goal is to have a mix of different education background. So you want to have people that were studying IT, but also finance, business, human studies, whatever. You want to have different members in the sense of age, which brings you different skills, different knowledge, opinions. It's important to have members from different race, gender, and culture. And why it's important? At first, it encourages productivity at work. Diverse teams tend to outperform non-diverse counterparts. It helps to manage the bias and sparks the innovation and the creativity. So if we know what is the goal and why it's important, how to be better, there are a few things that anyone can do. At first, can introduce written policies. This helps everyone to align. It's easier to follow, and it's a good signs for potential new joiners, because as they see there is the document that is describing that, yeah, everyone is welcome. We want to be diverse. It's a good sign for them. Everyone needs to have a space to speak up. to provide their opinions, to vote, affect policies. And one thing is have it written and agreed, but it's important that leaders of the community lead by example. So they must stick to the policies and rules that are written and be example for others to follow. They should actively look for members in the mentioned areas. Yeah. How diversity look now? It's not as good as one should wish. At least the trend is positive, as you can see on the graph I'm presenting. It's showing the share of women in as a tech force, the tech workforce, and it's a good sign. It's steadily increasing since the 2000s. Currently, it's something below 30%, which is not enough, and not the goal is not yet achieved, but at least it has increasing trend. So now that we've covered best practices and how to retain people, let's take a look about the projects and how they implemented these best practices. As a first project, I have chosen Rust. I believe that a lot of people know Rust. It's a rapidly growing programming language. This language started as a side project of Mozilla Research, and then later it was moved to its own Rust Foundation. Maybe a few things about what it is foundation for those who don't know, who are not familiar with this term. Foundations are an entities or legal instruments that helps projects to structure, help in the collaboration, helping with financial model, and they differ in the kind of a mission they have and the support they provide to these projects. For project maintainers, it's important to know that such foundation exists, and it really can help them to take some burden from them, like in the sense of administrative tasks or legal governance. So let's get back to Rust. As I said, it was moved to Rust Foundation, which is a rather young foundation. I believe it was formed sometimes last year. This foundation is led by a small team of full-time staff and led by a board of directors, which consists of members from membership companies. Because the project of this size is financially it's expensive, then it must have some members or sponsors that are supporting it, which then can be used to pay full-time staff, full-time jobs, and grant a community grants program, which in case of Rust or Rust foundations are to support maintainers, nurture community, and further innovation. And each of them has different reward. When it comes to the community of Rust, it consists of members which call themselves as Rastashians. I hope I pronounced it correctly. They maintain their website with a lot of useful information on how to start, how to communicate between each other, where to go, and so on. When it comes to repositories or version control platform, Rust is hosted on the GitHub, and the main repository for the contribution is Rust, which contains the language itself. It's pretty active. And the next most active repository is Cargo, which is for it is the package manager for Rust. And as you can see, the contribution here is way below the language itself. And with the rest of the repositories, it has levels below this, even the Cargo. Next project I would like to talk about is Node. Node is responsible for developing of Node.js, which is a JavaScript runtime. This project is hosted under Node.js Foundation, which is also part of Linux Foundation. OpenJS Foundation is a foundation for JavaScript ecosystem, and it is a home it is a home of the large projects, I would say well-known projects such as Webpack, Electron, and jQuery. This foundation is led by cross-project council that is there to centralize the coordination among projects and to some extent also technical governance. About the Node community itself, the core features and the core discussion is going on the GitHub with real-time chat possibilities or alternative done via Slack or IRC. A very nice place and very active place, I would say. It's a dev community on the dev.to under the tag Node. And this is a place where users or contributors are sharing Node.js projects, articles, tutorials, or where they can have the discussion about these projects and get some feedback, and in general about the Node.js related topics. It has very nicely done contributing guideline. It explains how to become a collaborator or contributor, where to start, what is like the best way to start. It's talking about the issues, how users can submit an issue for the bug or for the new feature, how to triage it, and the discussion. It talks also about the pull request, what is the process of opening a pull request, process of the reviewing, and setting local environment. Node.js has formally written a code of conduct that lives in GitHub. So probably anyone can propose a change to it and can contribute even to the creation of code of conduct. Someone is not happy about how it's going on, it can affect it. This document contains standards of the behavior, of the good behavior, like the empathy, respect of the opinions, focusing on what is the best, and not just for the individual, but it's focusing on the overall community. It also contains examples of the bad behavior, like trolling, harassment, or publishing private information, and also providing a guideline of how this will be enforced with different levels of consequences. It can start with just the correction of the message, and the highest is permanent ban. To support my words that this community is successful, you can see the metrics. This metrics was taken from LFX Insight, which tracks the traffic on the GitHub. The total contribution per each quarter is attacking 2,500 contributors, with the total contribution almost 50,000. And since I was taking these screenshots sooner, I believe that it's now above this threshold. That was for notes, and now let's talk more about Zowe. Zowe, or Project Zowe, is part of the Open Mainframe project. As many of you know, the goal of the Open Mainframe project is to deploy and use open source on the ZOS. It contains a lot of active and incubation projects. You can see the project landscape on this slide, and Zowe is mentioned under the column ZOS. When it comes to community, Zowe is led by Zowe Advisory Committee, which is like a board of directors, something like that. And the technical staff, or for the technical part, is responsible technical steering committee, which is both of these groups are meeting each week. The communication in the community is happening on the Slack mostly, and there is very active there are very active meetings every week. Those are done through Zoom meetings. Each sub-project of the Zowe is maintained by one squad, and one squad can also have multiple repositories or sub-projects of Zowe as a responsibility. How Zowe is doing, or how the contribution guideline is done within Zowe. There is one central. This lives in the community, and it's rather general. It talks about how to submit an issue. It talks about pull request guidelines, but the rest of that is given over to sub-projects or to teams that are responsible for the sub-projects. And I don't have so as an example of contributing guideline or how it's done for API layer, this contributing guideline contains a link to a public Slack channel where users can ask questions and have discussion around the topic of their interest. So in case something is broken and they want to fix, or they just can't to set up the application to run, This is the place where they can ask. It describes the structure of the repository, since it contains a lot of modules and programs for the development. It's good to know what is the purpose of each package. It talks about the naming convention, like how a new branch in the Git should be called, how to name a file, and how a code style should look like. It provides the guidance about the testing, how the test should be called, so it's clear just from the name what they are testing. It describes the structure of the test. Like, for example, in this case, it's using nested test and so on, which technology is used, and the automation pipeline, which is running these tests for each build. It talks then about pull requests, how to open one, and the requirements for merging. It ends with the planning guideline. Zowe itself does not contain any formal code of conduct, and maybe because the community is not expanding so rapidly, so it's still enough to have just an informal agreement among the members, and unless everyone is behaving as they should, it seems to be fine. About the numbers, you can see that it's not that high as a node project, but it still has almost 300 active contributors per quarter, and total active contributors it's also about 1,500. And with that, just like to wrap up what I was talking about. So key things to remember, it's to create a welcoming environment, create a pleasant environment, so people are happy to be part of this community. It's important to keep the communication so the project is visibly healthy, even from the outside. To incentivize the members, to retain them, and embrace the diversity. And with that, I would like to say thank you for your attention, and probably it's time for some questions.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I don't think we have any questions, and so we will post this video on the YouTube channel later this week. And Andrej, do you want to give your contact information just in case anyone has questions afterward?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if I can type it somewhere or just say it.
Yeah, I would just say it.
Okay, so it's andrej.chmelo@broadcom.com.
Perfect. And then I'll make sure that that is in the description of the video, just in case anyone has questions and needs to reach out.
Sure.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. I will stop sharing.